Hey guys, welcome to the Editing Bard, the channel that brings you writing tips that make sense. I am super excited today to be doing another interview and talking about the book promotion side of writing, which happens to be incredibly difficult when you don't know how to do it properly. And so I've invited one of the people from my editing group to discuss this with me today and give you guys some helpful tips and also a little bit more information on what it is that he does. So I'm going to pass it over to him for an introduction, and then we're going to dive into questions. Just so you guys know, as the little banner passes by this way, post your questions over in the chat box and we will answer them as we see them come in. We also have some questions to dive into as well. So without any further ado, take it away.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Joe Walters. I'm the founder at Independent Book Review. So basically, Independent Book Review is a celebration of small press and self-published books. So all the people that you don't necessarily see in every single one of your neighborhood bookstores or used to see in your neighborhood bookstores, I try to promote them as best as I can. I have a team of like 15 reviewers who basically take a look at what books I think look exciting falling into our inbox queue and share it with them, see if they want to read a free book. And then we get promotion basically by writing the reviews and providing them on a very reader-friendly website. And in addition to running Independent Book Review, which is that promotional side and also an author services side for those who need a production team. I'm also the book marketing assistant over at Sunbury Press, and then a book review and metadata specialist over at Paper Raven Books. So I have a couple different hands in the old ring, I guess would be one way to say it, in a few different ways of book marketing. So excited to be here, excited to chat a little bit with you.
Awesome. All right. So kind of the first question that I see or am asked in regards to the promotional side of things is that people don't tend to know where to start, or they think that it's going to cost them a lot of money. And especially in times like this, where we have, rather large events happening around the world and money can be tight, and we're looking to not only save some money ourselves, but also still get our books out there. What are some low-cost book promo ideas or things that you've seen work and be successful from what you guys have done?
Yeah, so I would say the majority of book marketing can be done for free. It's all about time, and time is money, but it really is a matter of getting yourself out there with what you already have. So social media is huge, in-person events are huge, and then also just kind of pitching for different types of publicity or marketing in itself. So if you're looking for publicity in particular, it doesn't take any money in order to find the contact information and be able to figure out who you should be contacting. That's all about research, and it's all about a ton of research. And then in addition to just sending a pitch letter, having your online profile or online platform as dynamic as possible, make sure that your information is all up on your Goodreads author account, your Amazon Author Central account, that you have all of the really useful tools for just if somebody needs to search your name, you need to be able to be searched easily. And a lot of the time that is free. If you happen to have those Goodreads profiles, if you have those Amazon Author Central accounts, and if you have a few reviews or interviews, then you can be found that way, in addition to your websites, in addition to your social media. So you have tons of options, really, if you're looking for free. The only problem is if you spend all of your time marketing, you're not going to spend your time writing. So it's really a matter of of making sure that you don't overwhelm yourself with doing way too much marketing on your own, because you're going to lose the fun of writing. And so that's where like hourly publicists, hourly book marketers are there for you. And so that's definitely what I would recommend, is to make sure that you have the most dynamic online profile as you possibly can, doing all of the hourly things that you can, that take up your time, that make sure you get your job done, and kind of setting a budget, making sure you don't go, or you climb up to it, because there are certain things you should be paying for. But just because you don't have money doesn't mean you can't do a ton of stuff to make sure your book gets out there.
I like that. Yeah, I think that more often than not, people probably assume that they have to have something tangible to market, and that's not necessarily the case, you know. So what is it? I was curious, just to kind of bounce off what you were saying. When you are doing pitches to different people and doing the research and stuff, what do you typically recommend people look for in terms of like, who should they be pitching to? What's the purpose of pitching to, you know, whoever it is that matches kind of up with their genre? What's the benefit that they're getting out of that?
Yeah, so that's kind of where it gets hard, because there are a ton of books out there. There are a ton of authors out there. And so they are getting emails saying, we'll give you this book for free. And honestly, they have that option already. I run a review website and I get those free messages all the time. And so what they get out of it really is, if they are in the niche, if they are the person who, I would love a free book as long as it's something that I want to read. If you recognize me as a specific reviewer, so as an author, you should be paying attention to your genre, your category, and then kind of pitching that way. So what I like to do for my freelance clients is basically searching throughout social media, throughout Google, and a few different places that we won't get into, but the genre and keywords, genre, book review, genre, even more specific genre. So we would say contemporary fiction, then take a step farther, say contemporary Southern fiction book review. And then we go through the first few pages, we see who has reviewed these things. And that's when you'll start to realize that there are places that are specifically for your niche. So that's the publicity side. And then for like the Amazon amateur book review targeting that you should be doing as well, which can also be done for free, is making sure you have your comp titles and making sure you recognize that the reviewers who read and liked that book, your book should probably be similar to theirs in order for you to pitch it. And when you do go ahead and pitch it, you mention the fact that you found it here, you know that they like that specific type of book, and you just so happen to have it and you'd be happy to share it with them.
Nice. I like that. Looks like we got a comment or a question from V Bracket. So Joe, can a new author overexpose or push too hard on social media? At what point I think will people tire of this?
Short answer, absolutely. You gotta be careful. You really do. You have to be a person first and foremost on social media, and dropping a book link every day and or just talking about your book every single day is too much. It's already too much. You need to be the only way that social media works is when you have genuine connections. I don't have a ton of followers personally on my Twitter page, but I have people who, if I ran into, I know their name, I know what they like, they know my name, they know what I like, and that is one specific person. And that one specific person is a real person. They know that I'm a real person because I make dumb jokes on the internet. And so that's what you should be up to too. Make as many dumb jokes as you can, talk about candy, talk about whatever you can really to make sure that your following knows that you're a human. And not only are you a human, but you are a human who has useful content outside of the thing that they can buy And if they do want to end up buying, then they can go to you because they know that you're real and they know that they like your other content. So maybe they'll give a chance on buying yours.
Yeah, that's good advice. And that's something that even as an editor, we have to be careful about. Because otherwise we could just come across like, a sleazy car salesman. You're like, hey, you should buy me, or you should, buy my services. You should let me edit your book.
That is a sleazy car salesman. Geez.
I know. You gotta like, if you're like constantly like in someone's face about it, just trying to sell. I mean, it's a huge turnoff because no one likes to be sold to. Like, we want to invest in people, especially I've noticed like with the author community as a whole. We enjoy investing in one another because we're all on the same path. We all have the same goal. We all want our books to be published and succeed and impact lives. For me, like I tend to do like either funny writing memes. I have a growing stockpile of memes to use. But yeah, it's, and then just posting some valuable content, just commenting. I'll be like, hey, love your book, like give back, and you'll receive just as much.
Absolutely. And I wanted to jump into, it's not necessarily just about your links also. So I would say a good mix, instead of just, I very rarely recommend somebody say, buy my book online. I would rather people provide new content, which could be in the form of a book review. So that's why you should be chasing, or that's one of the reasons that you should be chasing book reviews, interviews, and things like that. Your following needs new, genuine content instead of the same link that you keep on dropping. Yeah, so making sure that like not only are you being yourself, but you're also providing a large array of different things.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So we got another question here from Gary. So what makes a book attractive to a reviewer? What do they look for?
This is great. It really, number one is the book cover. Absolutely, number one is the book cover. That's what I pay attention to. If you scroll over to my website, you'll see that I really, I get a ton of submissions, and I'll only provide the books with good book covers to my reviewers. Because if it has a bad book cover, I don't want it on my website. I think it's going to make my website look worse. So I would definitely recommend that you take the time to make sure that you absolutely love your cover, first and foremost. And then second is the back cover description, obviously. So that is part of what I would call like static book marketing. So the things that always stay the same would be your cover, for the most part, unless you are messing around with new covers and messing around with new descriptions. It's not necessarily what you're doing actively to change what you haven't gotten already, but changing the things that you already have. So if your description, if you realize isn't working on Amazon, you need to make sure that you have presented a situation, there's a conflict in the situation, and you kind of leave us hanging with what the reader can expect moving past the original conflict. Then if you realize that you are successfully getting people to click on your link or to at least look at it thanks to the book cover, if you're not getting those reviews, maybe your description isn't quite right yet. And then I'd say the second thing that makes it most attractive is the personal reviewer that you're pitching. So if you do have a dynamic cover, if you do have a dynamic description, it won't necessarily matter if you're pitching your Southern fiction to somebody who only pays attention to Irish fiction. It's not going to be attractive to them. So I'd say it's the research, it's the cover, it's the book description, and then I'd also say that it's your online platform. Because once they see the cover, and once they see the description, it's like, all right, this seems all right. Let me take a look at who this author is. And if that author does have a Twitter profile where they're silly and they're themselves and they have people engaging with them, same with Facebook, same with Instagram, I like it when I see that an author has personalized social media accounts that people are engaging with. Because if they're engaging with your posts, I can see that, and I want them to engage with my posts. So if you have a good social media following and people love to see what you're doing on there, then hey, I mean, that means that I have people coming to my website thanks to you. So that's definitely a big one too.
Yeah, I think that makes really good sense about the book cover, the blurb, because and we talked briefly about this in the last interview with Shanda, where you get like Aunt Bertha to do the book cover, and then like Uncle Joe is like a better, gooder grammar editor, and it doesn't make for something that is appealing to the audience, and you really want to do your due diligence as the author to put your best book forward first. That's one of the things that I've mentioned on my channel several times. I talk to my clients about it. I talk to just people in other writing groups about it. Like, you want to put your best book forward every single time. And it's so important that you pay attention to the details. Otherwise, you end up with what looks like a 99-cent book cover, and it looks like every other book cover in that genre.
Sure.
And then it gets lost. And it's just like, it doesn't look appealing because it doesn't look like you put enough into the book cover to represent your book well. Why would I assume that the inside is going to be any better?
Absolutely. There's this trend, which I mean has a solid foundation to it, with write as many books as you can in self-publishing, which is good because it works. If you have a good new book, people are going to go back and read your older ones. But at the same time, rushing to get your book done is a mistake. You need to give yourself enough time to make sure that if your first book cover design, if you use a new designer, if that person messed up, you need a new book cover. Don't just because you told your following it's coming out in April, doesn't mean it has to come out in April. You need to make sure that your book is the best it possibly can by the time it hits the interwebs, for sure.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, is that it's okay to go, hey, you know what, guys, I'm having to put off the book cover reveal because it just didn't quite match up to what I was looking for. And I want this to be the best that it possibly can be. So I will update you guys again when I'm getting close to having it. Oh, yeah. It's so much better than putting out a shoddy book cover, because everybody's going to be going, you waited for that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's not good. I liked what drive-by marketing. Yeah, what we want to avoid drive-by marketing. Like sell. Yeah, you don't want to.
I'm just imagining someone driving by and throwing a hardcover at somebody's head, which I'm all for. So go for it. I think that'd be hysterical. Just do that and let me know how it goes.
Yeah, for those of us who are introverts, that's probably how we'll get our book reviews. Is that we'll just drive by and just throw hardcover books at the people as we go by with a little note that says, "Please leave a nice review." Here's the art.
Copy. You can point them to this video as the reason why.
Yeah, exactly. But like, there's a reason. The book promoter guy said to do it.
It wasn't me. It was Joe.
Yeah. Lauren, having a chance to formally welcome you. Welcome. And yes, that's basically it. Short answer is I plan to buy all of your books. And like I responded, like, I need you to buy my services so I can afford to buy all of your books. I'll happily do so. Dal says, I try not to talk things outside of my writing and social media. I don't know why. I'm just too shy about sharing my personal stuff, which is legitimate. And I definitely have several clients that I've worked with that are very similar in that way. And even myself, I'm still a fairly private person in terms of like my family. Like, I don't talk a whole lot about my family. Like I'll mention, like, on one of the streams, Lauren heard my kids screaming in the background, and it's like, yay, working from home. But I don't go into great details. I'm not posting pictures of them on social media all over the place because it's personal stuff. Mm-hmm. I talk more about like what's going on with me, with my writing, what I like to do. Like, doing funny writing memes, because I am a meme lord, and GIF connoisseur. But what do you think is like a good happy medium between that, to where you're still showing that you're real, that you are a person and not just a salesperson?
Yeah, I mean, that's an awesome comment, because I also feel uncomfortable sharing personal stuff a lot of the time. And one of the things with social media too is that, like, you have to be comfortable with the platform that you're using. If
Mm.
you are trying to force yourself to do something else, you're going to end up hating it, and it's not going to work for you. So in terms of like personal stuff, writing, you mentioned writing, that one is personal. That's not by my book. That's saying I'm struggling with my this X plot point today, funny GIF. Like it's the same thing. All of your followers are not all of your followers, I guess, but your followers might relate to those writing comments, either because they've read you in the past or because they're also writers and they like to read comments like that. So if you can potentially share stuff about your writing, that's good. And then also, if you're a writer, you should also be reading. And I tweet and Facebook and all those fancy things about reading more often than I do about anything else. Because not only can I talk about what I'm doing in a personal way, which is helping myself specifically, I'm talking about other people, lifting other people up. So I like to read contemporary people. I like to read small press people. And so that's a personal way for you to attach yourself to your fans too. So I'm thankful that you recognize that you don't want to say personal things, because if you don't want to do that, then don't do it. I hate taking pictures. I'll hide behind independent book reviews account to take pictures of books, but if I'm in it, I'm terrified. And I went so far away from that. And so I won't do it. Maybe once my book comes out in a million years, I'll get an Instagram, but I'll probably feel uncomfortable doing it then too. And so it's just a matter of finding a way to stay personal while also not making myself feel bad while I'm doing it.
Yeah, I I suck so bad at doing the personal pictures,
Mm.
because like everything that I see is either duck face pictures where, it's like, and I can't pull that off.
Hey, that was pretty good. I mean,
I've been practicing. I'm waiting for my Instagram to blow up after I post my duck face picture. But like I don't do that. Other people can pull it off. That's not my style. That's why I usually resort to like funny writing memes.
Yeah.
Because that's more along my personality. And so yeah, I try and do stuff like that, because me is like I don't want to come across like conceited, where I'm just like, taking pictures of myself, like, and like every picture is just me. So yeah, it'd be weird. All right, good questions. Lawrence asks, can you talk about how to start in-person marketing, events, Indiegogo, or indie bookshops, libraries, etc.? Where do you begin?
Sure. So the first step, I mean, there are different ways for different people to approach this. First is making the connection. So if you have an X number of places in your area that you think an event could work for, and you feel comfortable doing this, you could potentially go in, and you could potentially already have your book with you, but not necessarily just showing it to them and telling them something. If you go to those places regularly, if it's an indie bookshop, please do it. Go to them and don't even try to sell them anything. Maybe buy something, or if you can't afford to buy anything, just go to their events, and try to make sure that they recognize your face in the crowd. Make sure you're interacting with them on social media. Make sure that the local ones at least know that you are trying to be a part of their community. And then once you do have something to sell, or an idea to bring to them, hopefully they already know who you are. If they don't, that's when the pitch happens. And so your pitch would definitely be focusing first and foremost on why you're going to them. And the reason for why you're going to them is not because you want them to buy your book or put an event for you, but specifically, I really love your store, and I go into it regularly, and I just appreciate everything that you guys do for the community. And then also, I do have a book. I would love for you to at least take a look at it. If you're in person, that's your opportunity to be as awkward, but also just as kind as you possibly can. And you should be doing that in your email pitches too. Just saying it's available here. And one thing you'll want to know, if you're at least talking about shelving, you want the bookstore or library to know that you also accept returns if you do accept returns. Some small presses accept returns. Some self-publishing companies do not accept returns. So that's something you should be aware of. But if you're talking about specifically events, build a personal connection first. So make sure that you have something going on with them there. You'll want to focus in on how, in your pitch, how you're going to try to move traffic toward that event. They want to sell books too. That's their goal. And or the library wants to bring people in. So you'll want to make sure that you're mentioning that I'd be happy to provide a poster if you are willing to provide a poster. I'd be happy to leave bookmarks at the front. I'd be happy to post regularly on social media. I plan on running an advertisement campaign specifically for the event. I plan on reaching out to publicity specifically for the event, as opposed to, I plan on increasing publicity through book reviews. I plan on telling them that I have an event coming up. I plan on including this information on Eventbrite. I plan on creating a Facebook event around it. I plan on reaching out to book clubs. So you should have kind of like a sales pitch behind all of this, and letting them know that you're going to try your best to make sure that people fill the seats. And then also you're going to need to make sure that you are doing that too. So personal connection, make sure they recognize that you're going to try to build either an audience or paying customers to come to you as well. And then the actual event themselves, you're going to be super nervous. So just do your best. You could potentially have a poster there. I usually like to have a poster there. Make sure you have enough books there. And then usually having one dummy person, which is a horrendous way to put it, in the audience to ask you your first question. Probably not your husband, probably not your wife, but somebody there that you really think you can trust, because you're going to be a little nervous probably to answer your first question. And usually the rest of the audience is going to feel more comfortable asking you questions after the first one. So there are a few tips, but plenty more where that comes from, really. You can go about it in any sort of way, but I'd recommend that's the area you take.
Yeah, that's good. And the moral of the story is hire a dummy double to go with you to the event. Very essential.
Yes.
So we got quite a few questions popping in here, which is fantastic. And I want to circle back around because it'll go, it plays off of one of the questions to the sweet Lord. We're going to keep going because I can't apparently, I can't words, bookmark. That's what it was, bookmark. We'll circle back around to that. Gary asked, are BookBub deals worth the investment for the self-published writer?
Good question, honestly. So one of the biggest words in this is just investment. So first thing I ask you to pay attention to is how much did you plan to spend on this book? Because BookBub is expensive, and BookBub could potentially result in 99-cent book sales and or free book sales, and those might count for your downloads. So you'll have to think about the reward for doing all this. Your downloads could increase, which could make you an Amazon bestseller. You could get more book reviews. Both of those are awesome, but also you're probably spending more money than you are taking in. Still, not a bad idea. BookBub is one of the best promotion sites on the web. And I think if you're willing to, if you think that your book, if it gets X amount of reviews, if it tops 50, tops 75, that the book is very recommendable, for example, those 75 reviews from then on, you can start pitching your book to other people, and or those 75 people could be telling their own fans or their own friends about your book, which is great. But once your Amazon page has 75 reviews on it, the next pitches that you have, they might be going to your Amazon sales page. If you have 75 reviews, they might say yes. So BookBub, don't do it for every book. If you have one that you really, really believe in, and you pay attention to what BookBub tells you is popular for them, so they have specific genres, specific niches that do better than other ones. If your book falls under that, if you believe that it's very recommendable and that you plan on doing in publicity after it, as long as this is not your only marketing piece, because if you only have $500 in marketing that you plan to spend, don't do this, because this is going to be a giant chunk and you're going to need to spend it elsewhere. But if you plan on spending more and you think your book is recommendable, and you plan to do more marketing and promotion afterwards, then sure, it might be worth it. But if it doesn't work for you, maybe don't do it the next time, or maybe try to figure out why it didn't work and try to do it better the next time around. So
yeah, and I think it's wise to consider what strategically you want to get out of a BookBub promotion, and what your ultimate goal for it is. Because if it's to get sales, well, you might get sales, but they're going to be pennies compared to what you've spent.
Yeah.
And so, whereas if you're going like, I'm wanting this because I need an influx of downloads or reviews, then I think that would make sense. And there's some great questions. Let's touch on this one real quick. Do you think bookstores will be able to come back from the pandemic? Concerned that the face-to-face events may be non-existent, at least for a while. It's kind of it's a big question right now because, for a lot of us, like, we're still like kind of in the midst of everything. But long term and just kind of brief, what do you think that may look like?
Well, first of all, I'm currently crying. This is tough. Some bookstores aren't going to if it lasts for too much longer. And that's why, please, whoever's watching, support your local indies. They need it. This is super tough for them. And some of them genuinely won't be able to come back from this. But some will. And so those events can happen in the future. Bookstores like events, especially from local authors, especially if it's your launch. If your launch is at a local bookstore, if you team up to create a giveaway with your local bookstore, they are still going to be interested in doing it as long as they open up again. But for now, don't focus on bookstores. Don't try to sell your book to bookstores right now, because they don't want to buy. They want to make money. Let's hope that yours is available next time.
Yeah. So this kind of goes back to the bookmarks that I had mentioned. So how do you feel about reader magnets, and how do you integrate them into the marketing plan?
And so are we talking about just magnets? I haven't heard this term before, actually.
Well, so like reader magnets is like the little freebies that you get. They're to entice the reader to purchase the book. So it could be a bookmark, could be a short story that is exclusive to, and these are some of the things that I've seen. One of the authors that I've talked to, she's got other little goodies that she's going to have for hers. I caught myself because it would be spoiling it if I said it out loud on the stream, and that would be bad. But yeah, those are those kinds of things. How do you think you could integrate those into an effective marketing plan?
Yeah. So I just call those different types of promotional material. So you have to recognize also, similar with BookBub, that this is going to take up a chunk of your money, your budget for your marketing. And so it's possible that these things do benefit you in the long run. You need a specific tactic for using them. What is your eventual goal? So if you plan to get bookmarks, awesome. I like bookmarks. I think you can use them, but don't just get them at the front because somebody told you to. You need to have already recognized that your goal is to have a relationship with your local bookseller. Probably talk to them a little bit beforehand and say like, hey, if I left bookmarks up here, would you be open to just letting people take them? And then if people take them, every time that they read their other book, your book is in their hand. They look at it and they eventually look it up. So that could be beneficial for you. But at the same time, if you spent $250 on that, you're not going to get $250 worth of sales from those bookmarks. So keep on thinking of how much money it's going to take for you. But also, if you plan on using them for a street team or a launch team, and making sure that I haven't talked too much about launch teams yet, but basically if you have people close to you and or you have 10 to 15, 20 people who you think would be interested in reviewing your book in the first few days of the book's launch on your platforms like Amazon and Goodreads, then you could potentially be offering them these promotional materials as an incentive for joining the team. And they could be really excited about that and say yes because of it. And they could become your top 100 fans who continue to promote your book after it's done. Just like any business, you have 100 genuine fans who can potentially increase word of mouth. If they're really excited about not only the book that they read, but the fact that you threw in a sticker or you threw in a magnet if it goes on the fridge, it could get them really excited and it can potentially work out for you. So I think those are two goals. You could potentially see that your local bookstore would be interested in doing this, and or that your launch team could be more excited about it. If you do include those, then sure, you could potentially include that. But if you only have $250 to market with, then probably not. I wouldn't recommend it if you have that little to work with. So
yeah, because you could put that money to something that's going to have a little bit more punch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you have that much, if you have a smaller budget, that just means that you should be putting in more time, and that's it, really. So focus solely on time, unless there are specific things that you should be or that you need to pay for. So,
yeah. And I just wanted to highlight this for a second. So, Dal says, I'm planning on publishing a short story in audio format. I'll upload it to my YouTube channel. And then that's her reader magnet because she currently doesn't have a letter. So it goes onto the YouTube so that she's not sure if it's an actual reader magnet if she uploads it to YouTube. But that's what she's going to do anyway. I think that could totally work as a reader magnet, sure. Because you're still drawing people to the platform that you're on, making them aware of what it is that you're writing, what you're doing. And then you can, put links to your book when it's published. And especially if you're giving updates and stuff like that, if you're drawing people to your platform that you're maximizing for most effect, then yeah, to me, that would also be a reader magnet.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're trying to use this to get more social media followers, and YouTube is social media, then sure. Yeah, I think so. It's specific to the people who visit your specific site. If they like it, they're going to like and subscribe to your page. So I think that's useful. I didn't comment at all on the fact that these reader magnets can be free. So like those short stories in order for a newsletter, guess what? Do it. Like, why not? It's free. It will take time, and newsletter subscribers are huge. It's really, really helpful to be able to have that. And if people really enjoy your work, then they will be interested in reading another short story from you. So leave it up on your website. Absolutely. Why not make that available? If it's free, it's going to take up your time in order to write the story if you haven't written it already. It just doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Okay, so like I said, lots of great questions coming in here. Before we dive into the next set of questions, Joe, take a minute and kind of explain to people, let's say take the next like 5 minutes or so and kind of talk a little bit more about what independent book review does. Because I think in some cases it might actually answer some of the questions that are popping up in the chat.
For sure. Yeah. So if I hit share screen, will that just work immediately for me?
Should.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Let's see. Let's see.
And if it doesn't, I can always go to where it is.
Yeah, can you just go? Because I'm confused already. So.
Yep, no worries. I can do that.
I appreciate it. So Independent Book Review is a promotional site specifically for small press and self-published authors. I started it back when I was working as a small press marketer in Oregon and realizing that it's incredibly difficult for small press and self-published authors to increase publicity because there's no, a lot of the time in small presses and or self-published people, they don't have a marketing team behind them. They don't have marketing money behind them. And so basically they need to be on a reader-friendly platform. And so if we could just scroll for a second here. So basically I pay attention to making sure that this site is focused on readers instead of writers, which you won't find a lot in self-published review forums. So basically I'm trying to build a reader platform that also provides writing tips and stuff. So we got all these book reviews. Specifically, there are some that send in their paperback covers. We take a unique photo on a different background to make sure that each book stands out in its specific color. And then in addition to making this happen, so if you want to be included on our website, just go ahead and find us through the For Authors section. If you could scroll up for me, this probably would have been a lot easier if I had it.
We got this.
Yeah, there we go. So go over to For Authors. So obviously I want to focus on the authors first. So get your book reviewed is right here at the top. If you want to get your book reviewed, basically all we need is your book cover, your book in a PDF file, and the book description. And so if you submit that way, then you could potentially, if I like the look of your cover, if I like the look of your description, and I believe that my team of reviewers would be interested in this, then I share it on a file of about like 60 other books that I thought stood out to me. Share it with my 15 reviewers, and they browse the covers, they browse the description, and basically if they find something they think looks awesome and they want to read it for free, they read it for free. And then if you want, you can send in a paperback copy and I can take a picture with it to make sure that it's at the very top, make sure it looks the best it possibly can on our website. So that's one way to do it. We also, specifically in self-publishing, I see a lot of sponsored book review websites. I don't believe in sponsored book reviews just because you have to publish those reviews if someone pays for it, regardless of if that cover doesn't look great and or if the book is not recommendable. My website is strictly about books that our reviewers would recommend to fans. So not only does our site look pretty good, but it's all books we would recommend. If you see it on there, one of our reviewers thinks that it has something to offer to their genre. And so we offer editorial book reviews instead. So if you need to guarantee pull quotes, so if you can click on get your book reviewed for me. All right, and if you can scroll on down, we got editorial book reviews. We can click on that now. All right, so if you need to guarantee pull quotes for your marketing material, basically if you want something for your back cover, if you want something for your Amazon editorial reviews section, if you need to guarantee a reviewer, we read a book and provide an unpublished review in order for you to grab quotes from the review in order to include. So if you could scroll down a little bit farther for me now. And then to the next like picture section, I include how you can use them. Basically, here's different ways that authors have used our quotes in the past. So Independent Book Review said this about your book. And then we got quite a few, if you could just slide through them for me. So another book review. We've got, so these graphics, we can also do a graphic for you if you ended up wanting to do it and promote on your social media feed that you got a review. We might not have published it on our website, but we probably said something nice about it because we're not evil. So I can't stand reviews that only say negative things. There has to be something to like. So here's a couple of graphics that people have done for us. And then there are also things like bookmarks, which should be up next, I believe. So a poster, there we go. We got a quote for a poster up there.
That looks great.
Yeah, I love it. Sherilyn Dechter is awesome. If you guys like historical fiction, she's a really, really talented author. I'd recommend. Bookmarks, which I love. I love this one. Eric Butler did a great job with designing this. And I think the last one's just the Amazon editorial reviews section. Yeah. So on your Amazon page, you'll want to make sure that you have reviews in your editorial review section. So that's one way you can use our pull quotes as well. But for the most part, that's what we do. But we also do, so you can build your production team with us as well. So if you go into the author services section on our website, you'll be able to see that you can get, if you just want to scroll to the top, it'd probably be easier just to see everything.
At the top.
Yeah. Services. Yep. And so you'll see step 1 through 6 is basically a recommended publishing model. So first you'll want big picture editing, so developmental editing or an editorial letter. So you want to make sure your story is as concise and as good as possibly can be. After that, we have group beta reading, which you can guarantee 3 to 5 professional beta readers to read through your book and read it like a reader as opposed to a writer. So if it got published today, what would it be like? How would your readers respond? That's what we have there. After that, you go through copy editing. After that, you go through proofreading. We have a cover designer here too. And then the editorial book reviews is to close it all out. So if you want also to just get your entire production team through us, that's what we're here for. So, but that's the whole rundown for you. I'd probably exit the, there we go. So appreciate it.
That's awesome. Chat's been blowing up with basically just shut up and take my money. So
I accept. That's fine.
Yeah, no, that's so cool because it's one thing to, because like I went to the website, I looked it over and I was like, wow, this is really cool. But to hear it explained in detail about like, this is what it is that we do. And then like, just to even see just like how amazing those reviews looked on the back of the book, on the God, I cannot remember the freaking bookmarks. On the struggle bus with that. Yeah. I mean, those looked so great.
Thanks. Yeah, I think they do too. You should be using pull quotes. It could come from Independent Book Review, or it could potentially be coming from an author that you know. You should be using those things. They're validation, and they're available to you. And I like Independent Book Reviews because it has, for your readers, for your fans, that name is legitimate. Just like, I mean, Kirkus Reviews is obviously a giant name, but Independent Book Review works, really. There are some names that necessarily, if you put up Barbara's bookreviews.blogspot.com, it doesn't look as good. So the name really helps. So, I mean, I like what we do over here. I think we have a lot to offer.
Yeah. Well, and especially like when they go and there's like a picture of you with them and they're like, oh, wait, that's your aunt, you know?
Yeah, there we
go. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. So a lot of questions pop through, and I know that we have, we've talked about an hour. Like, are you okay if we go a little over that depending on, okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're being respectful. So this one, Jerry, because he's the real MVP, has been asking some great questions. So Facebook versus Amazon ads, which is a better return of investment? Amazon.
Just let's stick as quick to the point as possible. Facebook has really bothered me with their ads lately. So if you are good at them and you can make sure that people are engaging with your ads, not necessarily just putting it in front of an audience. You might have 700 followers on your Facebook page. And when you post for free, only 100 people see it or only 50 people see it. And then if you create an ad, they're just showing it to some of the 600 people who signed up to follow you. And so basically you're paying for your following to see your stuff. And that could be beneficial. Sometimes Facebook gives you free ones, which is really nice to use. Just free ads that you can use. So definitely pay attention to those, and you can definitely learn how to be effective at Facebook ads, where you're getting engagement, and then the engagement is propelling people to actually hit the buy button. But even if your book gets seen by a bunch of people and gets clicked on by a bunch of people, it doesn't necessarily, I don't find that people are buying things on Facebook as much as people are buying things on Amazon. It's an e-commerce site. So they go there to actually buy. And Amazon is hard too, though. So like advertising is not just a matter of giving them money and hoping that it works out. You need to study into it. Amazon ads, you need to have 100 to like 400 keywords in order for it to actually work. So you need to do the research into actually figuring out what the best keywords are for you, and doing a ton of them. So spending a lot of time in order to pick which keywords you're going to use. And also maybe buy a 99-cent book on Amazon that talks about Amazon advertising, because I'm a book marketer and I'm not an Amazon advertisement guy, and you guys probably aren't either because you're writers. So there's something to learn there. People have been very successful using Amazon ads. I haven't been very successful using Amazon ads. So make sure that you know what you're doing beforehand. But if you wanted to do an ad, I would go through Amazon as opposed to Facebook.
Okay. And then some feel writing a series will bring success. Is there a downside to this strategy? Have you seen that at all?
The downside?
A downside, or just that writing a series is typically more successful?
I'd say the downside, first and foremost, is that you're forcing yourself to write a story that doesn't need to be written. So if you think that your book should be a series, if you want to follow those characters, again, if you can be very passionate about the next book in your series, absolutely write it, because the more books that you have, the more they're going to go towards your back catalog. And also, if you put up your first book, for example, for cheaper on Kindle, they could potentially buy the next one for more expensive. So yes, series are good, but only if that second and third book is good. I've seen a lot of series where book number 2 is just a bridge from book 1 to book 3.
Yeah.
And it's just, they all have to stand on their own. They all have to be terrific. You should be proud of every single one that you write. I'd love to hear your opinion of it too, because I'm sure that you run into a very similar situation with series.
Yeah, I do. And it's interesting because actually most of my clients, especially ones with fiction, they tend to have more than one book planned for a series. And it's because that they're passionate about the characters. The story is big enough. And that's the other thing that when I'm working with somebody on their story, I can look at it and go, look, the story isn't big enough to support 3 books. Like you have a lot of great content, but there's not enough weight or substance there to actually stretch it out into 3 books without forcing it. Yeah. And you really have to be careful with that, because just because it sounds like a great idea doesn't mean that it actually is. This is coming from a guy who has 12 books planned for my entire fantasy series. And I continually wonder why I do this to myself. But it's because I've spent literally 14 years world building this thing. I know that the story is big enough, and I know every layer that it's going to take to get me from book 1 to book 12. And it's because I've done so much of the world building and the life experience and the maturity and stuff. Sometimes you don't need to go into it planning a series. Sometimes you go into it saying this is a standalone book. You let it sit for a while, and then if inspiration hits, you can do book 2.
Yeah.
And it could be a duology. And then, like, lo and behold, book 3 comes along. You can actually take it a little bit slower. You don't have to plan it as a series, because what ends up happening is you develop write-a-series-itis, and you just write it for the sake of writing it, but that substance isn't there. And then you've actually done damage to yourself and your credibility as an author.
Absolutely.
So you have to have very careful planning. And typically I recommend that you have somebody work with you on it, because you're not going to remain consistent the entire way through, because you're talking a very long span of time, typically, to not only plan it, but to write it.
Mm-hmm.
And so having somebody to work with you on that is really beneficial.
Absolutely. I really have just read some flat book 2s. And I just want everybody to be confident in every single book they put out.
Yeah. Let's see here. Where'd it go? There it is. So I've seen some people have issue with paying review sites to post their books. What would you look for to make certain sites/services are ethical, i.e. that you aren't getting ripped off or venturing into paying for positive review territory?
Yeah, this is great. I'm glad that your mind is there. So make sure that you're asking yourself what your goal is for paying this review site. Is your goal simply to get pull quotes? Then yeah, it's fine. If that way you won't have to spend time in actually pitching for those reviews and hoping that they get accepted. You could pitch to 25 different people, which is research just to find those 25 different people, to find one publicity platform that might be willing to take on your book. If you think about it in terms of your time, because that time matters. If you come home from work and you spend 3 hours each night in order to find those reviewers, but instead you could just pay. So we're $59 an hour, or 60, not an hour. Sorry, that's crazy. $65 for a review. And so if you think about it in terms of hourly, that's like 3 hours, 4 hours. If you're paying somebody who's doing 15, if you believe that your work is $15 an hour worth, then that comes up to that number. So if you want to save your hours in order to get a pull quote, then yeah, I think it's worth it. But then also, if you are searching for a website that can give you publicity, so you're hoping that someone is following that review site, a reader is following that review site, reads that review, and then just buys your book, you'll want to make sure that that review site is focusing on readers as opposed to writers. Because writers aren't necessarily your target audience. They might read, they should read, but it's possible that you go to a site that is solely about providing pull quotes and you expect it to be a publicity platform for you. It's not. That's what I try to do with Independent Book Review, is create a reader-friendly platform so people could potentially just go and actually buy your book from it, because people are paying attention to it to find the best in small press and self-published books, and provide pull quotes. But there are sites out there that aren't focusing on both. So pay attention to whatever you're focusing on. What is your goal from this? And then you can move forward. So I think there's a lot of negativity about buying book reviews, and you should never buy positive book reviews. You should never buy book reviews on Amazon. You could pay people to target reviewers for Amazon, but you shouldn't be going to Fiverr and seeing somebody who's offering to write a review for $5 to leave it on Amazon. They're probably going to take that review away. And you also, in terms of if you think that editorial review, sponsored review platform is, I was going somewhere. Here we go. If you think that they are only doing positive reviews, if you read through all of their stuff, make sure that they say they're not publishing bad reviews, or maybe you shouldn't trust them. So take that into account too. Look at their other reviews. Make sure that their reviews are quality too. Sometimes you can go in there and just kind of see that there's somebody who's writing reviews who they could potentially write a review for you, yes, because you pay them to, but that review might end up not even giving you a pull quote. So make sure that you're confident in the places that you're going.
Yeah, that's great advice because, just like with the editing side of things, there's the scammy people out there, and it's going to be the same, no matter what industry you're in, there's going to be someone who's trying to scam somebody out of their money.
Yeah.
And, it really is doing research, your due diligence. I'm talking with somebody right now on Facebook and potentially, and where he was asking me questions about like, okay, what's involved in your developmental edit? Do I get feedback afterwards? What does that look like? And this has all come before. He wasn't just like, oh, hey, you're the first person who responded to me, I'll go with you. Like, he was doing his research and doing his due diligence, and I wasn't offended by it. I welcomed it. He's like, what are your credentials? What's your experience? And I had no problem telling him, like, this is what I've been doing. And that is what everyone should be doing. Doing the due diligence that their book deserves, whether that is with an editor, copy editor, proofer, cover designer, or getting book reviews. Because to me, like, I would, while I do look for at reviews for books once they've been, like, if they're published and stuff, and the ones that I'm familiar with, like, I obviously know that they're good. But I had 5 students through the publisher that I interviewed last week. They've published their books now. And some of them had some amazing editorial reviews that I was like, wow. I mean, it was a huge list, and it took me off guard. I was like, wow, all of these people have reviewed this book. Like, this is fantastic. It gives a level of credibility versus just the star rating, but having that professionally done editorial review in a reader's head, that's a next level kind of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, it works. It really does. Amazon reviews are very, very, very important. You need to focus on those, but you should also be getting those credibility boosters for sure. Yeah. If you have a trailer, go look up movie trailers for 2020. That's one of my favorite hobbies, by the way. There's some trash movies out there.
Oh my God.
Go to YouTube, search it up. But you'll also see reviews. You'll see reviews from different places. They'll just pull quotes that say fantastic, terrifying, any of these words movies use. So if you're going to use a book trailer, for example, you can use those quotes. You can use important or professional/validated people who came in, read your book, and have something nice to say about it. There's just different ways to use them. There really are.
Yeah, that's great. So we only have a couple more questions left. This was one. Yeah. So Aphrodite was asking, what do you think the top/best marketing tool is for a completely unknown author?
This is tough. Your entire online platform. It's got to be number one.
Yeah.
Which includes your Google searchability. So make sure that your Google, whenever you search your name and/or search your name and the first and author, for example. So, like, there's a professional lacrosse player by the name of Joe Walters. I'm screwed out of that. I'm not going to get up there. But right there, author, which some readers potentially could, but also some reviewers potentially could once they get your pitch. You'll want to make sure that that first page on Google has something there. And also, these are things that you could be doing for free. So Goodreads author profile usually ranks pretty high. Your author website, as long as you continue to use it regularly, that's why I usually like blogging so much. It's just because the more you use it, the more often you turn up on the first page of Google. And then your social media accounts, the more followers you get, the higher oftentimes that you get up there. And So once I decide to pitch someone, this is something that I do for Sunbury Press. I won't pitch the big name publicity places until I believe your website looks good, until your social media looks good, until you have to make sure that once you pitch a recipient, if I'm looking to get reviewed, if I want someone to get reviewed by the New York Times, if somebody receives that email, sees your name, sees the book, the pitch is pretty solid, you've done a good job in doing that, and then they Google your name and your website is a mess and there are problems with it, then they're not going to say yes. They're immediately going to say no. They've done that research. I am a person who runs a review website. That means I pay attention to the authors who are submitting me the beautiful book covers, the beautiful book descriptions, but then I go over to their searchability and I realize that they haven't done their due diligence. Mm-hmm. It's possible that I promote this as a reviewer, and sometimes, honestly, I do. I don't care if people have 1 million followers or not. As long as the story looks awesome and the book cover looks awesome, I'm willing to give it a shot. But if you're looking to get into a large publication, they're going to pay attention to those things. They need to know that you have a following so you can bring your following to them. So make sure you focus on the things that you can do for free, including, you have to pay for an author website, but I think it's one of the most important things that you could possibly have. So make sure that you have an attractive page on there too. So make sure your online platform is dynamic. That's number one.
Yeah, I agree. And this is something that I actually work with my clients on during the mentoring process that I have. We actually focus in on like how to build your author platform and kind of gain some traction there. Because I've learned a lot about SEO, and SEO is a giant pain in the backside when you're starting off, because like it seems like everything contradicts itself when you search it. You Google make my SEO better, and like 50 bajillion search results come up, and they're all telling you to do it their way, and you're like, I don't even know. But
SEO is huge. That's how Independent Book Review has grown. A lot of time we have a lot of blog posts that people come to because it's high searchability. So if you guys are authors and you're willing to put a book listicle together of your favorite country western fiction novels, title it something similar to that. It's like, these are 10 great western novels to get lost in. And potentially, so who is searching that first and foremost? Readers are. They're looking for westerns. And so they click on that, and now they're on your website. If you get clicks on that every single day, they're already on your website. And it would be very beneficial if you just so happen to write westerns. So,
yeah, absolutely. And one of the best advice for marketing that I heard from a friend of mine, she had her book published back in October, was that her editor said, have a presence on every platform, but that does not mean that you have to be on every platform.
Yeah.
They're like, have your name out there. And if you're not on Instagram, have an Instagram account with links pointing people to where you're at, or then maybe post on there like once a month to let them know, like, still alive, guys. Don't mind the trending Facebook, Twitter hashtag someone did. I'm still here. But you point people back to where you're most active, because like you said, searchability. Mm-hmm. If your name is going to pop up, and it's going to pop up on things like Instagram or Twitter or wherever, and you're not active there, point people to where you are active.
Absolutely.
And don't feel like you have to go crazy with an author website. Simplicity, is going to work in your favor because of the load time that it's going to take. Because if it doesn't load within like 0.1 seconds, people are going to be off of there so fast, and it's just mind-boggling to me. But you want to make sure that your website is clean, it's easy to read, clear font, clear color schemes, very simple and straightforward. Like if you guys go to my website, the colors that I chose are black, white, and red. Like literally the only, well, I think I may have gray thrown in there, but like I chose that color palette for a very specific reason. And when you go on there, you can see that everything is very clear. The font is bigger than most websites because I don't have a ton of copy on it. But I wanted to try and keep it very focused on what it is that I was there to do. And that so that way when someone actually found it, they got a very clear picture.
Absolutely.
And you want to do the same thing with your book. You want to make sure that your website reflects your book, that you're not saying buy my book on the first page. You're telling a little bit about yourself. You're telling a little bit about your writing, what you've done, maybe the books that you've done if you have multiple books, and then a place where they can purchase it. And maybe that's simply an affiliate link to Amazon. And then you get the double dip. you get the affiliate fee, affiliate commission, and the commission for your book. Like, how great is that? So yeah, I agree. Ruben said, not a question, but a comment. Independent book reviews is legit. I agree with that.
So is Throw by Ruben Degalado, or however you say your name, man. That book is one of my favorite books from 2019. So if anybody's out there looking for some YA Hispanic fiction, that shit was awesome. Big fan, Ruben. Keep up the great work, man.
Nice. The Aphrodite said she thinks she's on the right track. Great. Yeah, look on the struggle. And actually, you know what, guys? I have some great links that I can post. I'll add them into the description and the show notes afterwards. So if you guys give me like 30 minutes after the stream's done to get those up, I can post those. And those, they were very helpful. They're a graphic designer, so they may be able to help. That's awesome. Websites with white background. Oh yeah, that's understandable. That's why I try to break it up with a lot of color, and I try not to do like stark white. It's like a slightly off white. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Don't want to keep Joe too much longer. We've already gone a little bit over time. But if you guys want to find out more about what it is that Joe does, more about independent book review, the link is down in the show notes currently. So if you guys want to, and you want just a straight shot there, go down to the show notes. The link is down there. Thank you, Joe, for coming on and sharing your expertise on this. I mean, everybody on here in the chat was just talking about how much they appreciated it. They were getting a lot out of it. Great information. Several were all like, well, I have cover space available, which is great. Yeah, so just thanks for coming on. Anything that you want to say before we close out to anybody out there?
No, I mean, thanks for having me, man. I had a lot of fun. This was my first live interview, and my armpits are sweating a little bit from it. But I think it went pretty well. I had fun. If anybody wants to come and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we're there. Probably just head down to the website first, and then you'll find your way around. So
awesome. Great job, guys. And thank you again, Joe. And we will see you guys next time. Take care, guys.